This week, we don't care about the new Slimes or the Blink-182 lineup, and we take a tropical vacation to the stars. I'm Ryan.
I'm Andy.
And this is Weekend Rental Podcast, episode 136. Well, I think we got to get right into it. There was a direct, a very direct. Everyone wants to talk about it. We got to see the Mario movie. You watched it, right? Did you watch it live?
Oh yeah. Actually, I missed it.
Okay.
But I knew that I was about a half hour late to seeing it. Okay. So I stayed offline because I knew that would be an absolute shitstorm as soon as that thing came out. So I avoided, seeing anything online until I actually saw it. And hey, it's pretty good. Like the Bowser thing was really good.
Yes, Jack Black nailed it.
Makes a good Bowser. I kind of like the comedy that they're doing. If that's kind of the type of comedy they're doing the whole movie, that's not bad. Get those little penguins from 64.
Yeah. No. I don't want to associate it. They're the penguins from New Super Mario Brothers U. Okay. So yeah, that's where they're from. Not the 64 game. All, that didn't happen.
Yeah, you think that king is like the baby that you kicked off?
Probably. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. There was like a whole king, like, because they don't ever. I guess they're taking some liberties, but there's no like penguin kingdom. It's tough to say.
That's a good name.
Penguin, yeah, it's his name. Yeah, I thought that was cool too. The comedy was good. I also liked how they gave Bowser Jack Black's like crazy eyes. Like when, how Jack Black does like the raised eye thing, like Bowser totally does that. So that's cool.
Do you think there'll be a Tenacious D song in this movie?
If they're not, they're doing something wrong, right?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Hopefully covering like fellatio or something, appropriate for children. So,
yeah.
So that's
really weird that they didn't show Mario at all, though. I was kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I liked how it went dark after that. Everything looked promising. And then Chris Pratt fell out of a pipe and crushed our. I think we all had reservations about Chris Pratt, but I think maybe I certainly kid myself in thinking that Chris Pratt was going to try, or that they were going to manipulate his tone of voice a little, which clearly they did with Bowser. Makes sense, I guess. But when Mario finally speaks and it's just Chris Pratt talking, like, hey, where am I? Yeah. It's just like, so close.
And like if he has like more of a Mario, like there is one line that he has a little bit more of a.
Yeah, but it's like a bad accent. It's like a bad Boston accent.
Yeah. But they still didn't like that where am I line was the first thing they showed. And it was just like, that's just Chris Pratt.
I mean, is the problem here is that the traditional Charles Martinet accent is insensitive to Italians and Italian Americans? Is that like is that why we can't do it? Is he just, I don't get it. Like, have you watched the video on YouTube where they redo the whole trailer, but they put Martinet's voice in for Mario?
No, but that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's great. I cried. It was 10 out of 10. Mwah.
Yeah.
Like, best thing I've seen. And then you get like a weird thing where it faded out, and then we kind of get like a Luigi's Mansion sort of vibe out of Luigi running for some from some enemies. I don't know. It still looks great. I'm still gonna watch it. I'm excited. The animation, it looks like a souped up version of like the Odyssey engine or something almost. You know what I mean? Like it's a little more polished, but it's not like outside of this world from what you've seen in like really good cutscenes from Nintendo themselves.
Yeah. And everything looks like in world, other than, I mean, Mario's face is a little bit off, but not that much.
No, his ass is super flat, which is weird. But I don't know if you noticed that from the trailer. People were really mad about the lack of meat in his jeans. So,
oh, who wouldn't be?
Yeah, you gotta have that fine Italian ass.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you still excited?
Oh yeah, I'm going to see it for sure. My kids are really excited about it.
I was debating what we should do is like I should look and see if they'll offer private screenings for that when it comes out. Then we could just get a theater for us because I think you can have 20 people in there. It's only like a couple $100.
Oh, really?
So if we split it between families and maybe get a couple other people to pay up, it'd be fun.
That would be cool. Yeah.
I watched the, did you watch the Comic-Con like live recording, some of those videos?
No.
Yeah.
So what was up with that?
I mean, it was mostly good, but it was just kind of like people were like, whoa, with the Bowser stuff. And then Mario speaks and it's just kind of like, and then you can hear somebody in the background. He's like, he just talked. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you know, nobody was booing or anything, but it was just kind of like, shit, you know, our reaction, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I don't know what I want from that either. Like, what can I expect out of that? I want a little bit more.
I mean,
but
here's my biggest problem is like, I don't like these movies where they think they have to attach a celebrity name to it for the voice acting to be good, because that's not what these people do. There are people who professionally voice act for animated films and like they give it their all. You know what I mean? Yeah. And Charles Martinet. So it's like, they didn't need to do that. The star power is not adding anything other than controversy. And I guarantee you they paid way more for Chris Pratt than he's worth. Jack Black's a different story, right? That guy's got a pretty rich history with animation.
Yeah, he can definitely do that stuff. Yeah. And that's one thing, like the Sonic movie, I think Tails is the original voice actress from TV shows of Tails, which is, you know, of course, why can't you do that then, you know?
Yeah, and I guess, you know, like since we're being nitpicky, the Sonic movie is another case where they didn't use the video game voice actor. But he's closer. Like Sonic doesn't have a defining, like sass is his defining tone, not, you know, a regional dialect.
I think you can at least nail his, you know, voice pretty well throughout, you know, different attitude, like you said.
Still there?
I mean, Urkel did it. How long ago?
All right, back
after talking about Sonic.
Yeah, minor technical difficulties. You're back now. So I don't know. I think that trailer and that direct did more positive than negative. I'm very surprised that we haven't seen like a tie-in announcement for a game. You know, like Super Mario the movie, the game. Just something. Maybe that's too
Starring
cheesy.
Bob Hoskins.
Yeah, maybe that's too
right back to them.
Could you imagine? Speaking of that, have you seen that guy who's building in Unity? The like real Mario game, like the movie with Chris Pratt's like figure and everything.
Oh no.
Oh, you gotta watch it. It's so good. It's so broken in so many ways too. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's like the Uncanny Valley sort of vibe. But yeah, I mean, it was cool. I think it's strange that we didn't get even a snippet or a teaser for this thing, you know, considering it's really only 6 months away now, 6-ish.
Yeah.
April.
It's not too far.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll have like a post-credit thing where they're like, here's Donkey, you know, here's what Donkey Kong's up to, or
maybe, I mean, it's DreamWorks and they do that in every movie they have.
Yeah.
Whether or not it leads to something.
Wario up to?
Yeah. Oh my God, that'd be great. Just like Wario and Waluigi, like playing tennis in the background somewhere. I don't know. Would be pretty cool. I don't know. It was good. I'm excited. I'll just talk about this one because this topic has nowhere to go. So I'm just going to throw it in right off the top. Other breaking news. One of my favorite bands announced that they're getting back together, even though they didn't break up today. So that's cool. Blink-182 brought Tom DeLonge back, which the internet's very excited about, but I'd like to remind the internet that the last 2 albums with Matt Skiba have been really good, and that Tom broke up the band twice before, and the last full studio,
do it again.
Yeah, their last studio full length album with Tom was just him making Blink-182 play Angels and Airwaves songs. So I'm not as jazzed about this. Plus, here's the other thing is like production wise, Blink-182 uses like duplicated, if not quadrupled guitar tracks already. And in a live setting, maybe it would have made sense to become a band with 2 guitarists and 3 lead singers who can't sing. Because if you already have 2, what's one more? Because then at least Skiba could have played like the last 10 years of songs with them, right? So I don't know. I guess there's probably like a, hey, do you want to slice the pie 4 ways or 3? But I think there could have been a cool path forward that would have allowed for all of that.
That kind of sucks that he's like, oh yeah, he's,
yeah,
he gets.
Well, an Alkaline Trio is still going strong. They got a new tour coming out. They got a new album coming out. So it's not like the guy's hurting, but it's just weird that, I mean, it's funny too, because this is like the same story, right? Like Travis Barker almost dies in a plane crash. Hey, we're all buddies again. Let's make music. All falls to shit again. And then like Mark almost dies from cancer. Like, hey, we're all buddies again. Let's make music. So I don't know. I guess they'll probably do something for a couple of years.
So what happened this time?
Yeah, Tom was actually going to get
abducted by aliens or something.
That's what'll happen this next time. He'll get abducted, probed, forget most of his memories, and then once they recover, they'll put out their follow-up album. But I don't know. It kind of just cracked me up. It's like, this big, like they're back. I'm like, they've been here. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think if you're a Blink-182 fan, and not to put anything, I mean, I like all their music to some extent, but you're either a Tom guy or a Mark guy. And I've always liked Mark's songs better. And Tom has just kind of been the pretentious prick for the last 15 years.
Yep.
And when they put out California and it was Mark just getting to write like quick, stupid, catchy punk songs again. And then like songs about building a pool so we could see naked dudes. I mean, that's all I really wanted out of Blink-182. I don't need some philosophical evolution. That's not the band I'm going to for that.
Yep.
So there's that.
I think it'd be anywhere close.
Yeah. Did you, then I think my favorite part of that was like the announcement for that, like When We Were Young Fest 2023.
Holy crap. Yeah, I saw that. That's insane.
And I love how the 2 top billed headliners are Green Day, who, whatever you think of where they're at with music in their career is fine, but they are probably top 10 stage shows out there. And then it will be them and Blink-182, who don't care about who you think, where they are in their career or where you think they're at. They are the worst fucking band live, who gives 0 shits, has 0 energy, and can't play or carry a tune on their own songs to save their life. So like, I would love to see like at that show, like who's going first and who's actually closing it out, and just
who's closing it. Yeah.
The disparity in professionalism is going to be shocking.
One day, right? It's not like it's a multi. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like everybody I would have wanted to see when I was 15 though.
Oh yeah.
And I like how Mike Herrera from MXPX is getting a double dip because both Goldfinger and MXPX are playing. So he gets 2 paydays.
Oh, sure. That's pretty nice.
Yeah. But then there was
like one of them was like Joyce Manor or something like that.
Yes, which we saw with the Descendants.
Yeah. Right. We're like, oh, whatever.
Yeah. And then there's like some odd ones in there too. Like Pierce the Veil. I was like, I mean, I like their stuff, but that doesn't fit with these guys. But yeah, everybody on there's a banger.
Yep. Half of them, I'm surprised that they're still around, like that you can get them to kick.
Yes. You know? The one thing I did notice though is like there's a distinct gap and lack of appearances from Epitaph and Fat Wreck bands. Like there's not, it's mostly drive-through era stuff, and that there's not a lot of those other guys.
Yeah, so. That's true. Offspring was Epitaph, right?
Yeah, but they were also major. Yeah, I mean they basically funded Epitaph. Yeah. Who else? I actually have the picture on my phone, sadly enough, because I texted this to somebody. Yeah, so yeah, you get the Offspring. Yeah. Finch, they were mainstream. Sum 41, Simple Plan. So you get like all these like mainstream bigger.
Yeah.
Newfound Glory. Okay, Lit is the one that was like, why? How do you fit with any of these?
They get the one song out there and then they walk off the stage.
Yeah. The one that everybody knows. Reliant K. It's an interesting one too. I didn't know they were still around. And then Motion City Soundtrack, the reformed.
Oh yeah,
the reformed prodigal children of Minneapolis. So they haven't been doing too good since they came back. I haven't heard much about them anyway.
Yeah, I didn't even know.
Yeah, this is a lot of drive-through bands. Something Corporate, Newfound Glory. I don't know if Simple Plan, Yellow Card, what they were on. But hell of a show.
Yeah.
If it wasn't in Vegas and right over my daughter's birthday, I'd consider going to that. I just feel like I would need a nap after about the first 90 minutes. So it's old, you know. So yeah, that's my punk rock update for this episode. Blink-182. There we go.
Don't care.
I'm indifferent to it.
Yep.
I don't have high hopes. It'll be fine. Just write some more songs about dudes at pools. Been playing anything?
A little bit. We've been playing. Well, I'll go into this really quick. We set up the extra Xbox One up on my mega game station.
Because you had an extra one because you already had an Xbox One X, right?
Yep.
So you have 3 in the household now.
Yep.
Nice.
So I have an X.
An X, an X, and a 1.
Yep, an XX1.
So
XXS.
Not confusing at all.
Yeah. So we set that up and was going to have that as like the kids thing, or, second player or whatever. Booted it up. The kids wanted to play something really quick. Instead of downloading anything, we put on Trials Fusion.
Okay.
And we were just having fun beating some of your times.
No.
On Trials Fusion.
Why would you do this to me?
Yeah.
I put a lot of work into those. Do I have to regain my glory?
Years in the making.
Yeah, was Fusion the second one? That was pretty early on, right?
Third? Man, I don't remember it.
I feel like it was pretty early on.
Evolution was the second one.
Okay. Yeah.
Fusion was the third one.
Well, I don't appreciate that at all.
Yep. So
it's very rude.
You have to get back to that. But other than that, we've been playing a lot of Slime Rancher 2.
Okay.
Which
is more Slime Rancher?
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed in it because it's just that game. And since it's like early access, it's like it's kind of broken. I've gotten almost like all of the upgrades and I make so much money and I'm to the point where my farm is so big and all my slimes are everywhere that takes up just entire loop. Once you're done with it, you have to start all over again. And that's just not that fun of a game if you can't go out exploring after a while. And I don't know. I think it's kind of a weak follow-up. Maybe they get it to a good place, but I wish they would have, kind of added more to it, or I don't know.
I think the lack of multiplayer is like the big thing, because I read that was like the number one request they got. And it's just like, maybe you should have just done the first game, but with multiplayer, and then tried to make some quality of life improvements, because my kids are super disappointed that they can't play it together. They're also pretty pissed that it's not coming to Switch, or at least Microsoft hasn't announced that they're going to allow it. So far, it's been Xbox exclusive, but I don't know. But yeah, they fell off pretty hard.
Yeah, and which is really bad for an early access game, because it's like, I don't know if I'm, once I finish up the content on it, I don't know why I would ever come back to it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. There's nothing like new or compelling to it. There's a few new slimes maybe, but.
And you wonder how iterative they'll be with updates, because it's not like a PC early access build. I'm assuming they're going to want to do fewer updates. It's not going to be as just incremental as like, I feel like with some of those PC early access games, you get updates every couple days, but that doesn't work as well on a console.
Yeah. And like most of those early access games are like build sim or, survival games, right?
Yep.
Where they usually add things to it and you make your base bigger and there's something to drive toward. And it's like this, I don't know where you go from here. You make more area, which is, I guess, kind of cool to explore and see some cool stuff. But what do you put in there? Do you just add more slimes? Which it's just like, well,
how many variety of slime do you get? Yeah.
I've already maxed out my money. I've already bought everything. Like what? I don't know. I don't know what the progression is supposed to be.
Did they add any like enemy types or any like big threat this time? Or is it just kind of like the last game where it's kind of
pretty much the same stuff? There's some areas which they attack, which I think that was in the first one. Yeah. And then there's some that like turn into tar things, which you can wash them or spray them with water.
Yeah.
So they're not really that big of a threat. There's just not much of a threat in that game, survival.
Yeah, that was always my, like, watching my kids play the first one was like the biggest down was like, well, there's so little consequence here. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You're just existing and farming, which I guess maybe that's the vibe they're going for, but something to shake the player up now and then would have gone a long way, I feel.
Yeah. After, and it's so limiting too. Like you got 3 spots and you can hold 20 things in each spot. And that's, most of the game is just you dealing with that limitation, which just kind of
management
sucks.
Shouldn't be the game.
Yeah. After playing that, watching my wife play that Disney game, the Disney Dreamlight Valley, where they're just like, you want free energy, just go in your house, do it. You want, to be able to spray your whole yard with water all at once, sure, go for it. We don't care. But like that's the type of stuff. It's just like,
yeah,
that's what these games need. Like the progression shouldn't be making the game easier or making your game feel better to play.
Right. Yeah, artificial nuance or like artificial slowdowns due to like restrictions like that don't make the game more fun or I mean, I get that they lengthen it maybe and like make you have to make choices, but it doesn't add enjoyment at all.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Yeah, I'm pretty disappointed in it. I thought for sure that would have been something that, they made a shit ton of money off the first one. Let's make a big budget. Let's go all out for this one. And it's the same fucking game.
I heard it crushed records though. Like they were shooting for like 300,000 downloads in the first day. They did that like inside of the first couple hours.
Sure. So, yeah, I believe it, but I wonder what the drop off is. I bet it's pretty steep because I don't know. Maybe they can. It just feels like the progression is way faster too in this one.
Maybe they'll No Man's Sky it, and in 10 years, for the 5 people who are still dedicated to it, there's going to be an amazing game there.
Yep.
And it'll get ported to the Switch.
That's going to be the real version. Could you imagine like playing those games, grabbing the PlayStation 4 version without any updates, and then grab that Switch game and like play them side by side? Like it would be.
Dude, I've been so tempted to go back in there again because I know they've released so many updates, but I waited until I think I bought that game for $6, like at a pawn shop within 6 months of it coming out. I never put it in because it was still broken, and I waited a good couple of years. And what was there was cool, but it was still just too much to manage. Like this is too much for fun. Then they added the whole like off-world exploration, like different people to run into, and you're like, oh yeah, this could be really great, but I don't know.
I think so. This last update, I think they added a mode where it's like you can switch off the resource stuff.
Good.
So you could
maybe I'll need to do it then.
Infinitely gather stuff and just do all that stuff
because that's the exploration. That's what you're there for, right?
Yep.
Not the constant fear of being killed by laser freaking things,
or just constantly be like, oh, my gun's out of energy. I need to go get carbon and all that other shit. Yep.
Yeah, that was the thing. It was always something. You solve one problem, you're on to like 3 more.
Yep.
Oofta. That was a very Midwest thing of me to say right there. I don't think I said oofta casually in a conversation forever, but I'm glad I saved it for this podcast. You're welcome, folks. Well, since we're talking about Game Pass, we should go into the question that was posed to us on Twitter, I think, by Chris, Nintendo Hodge, R3 co-host, the Ramble Record Repeat podcast. He threw in a question to us that we should talk about. He wanted us to cover this in our next episode. So there's a few questions here. It's Game Pass related though. So I'll read through them all and we can kind of dissect them. It's do you feel that Game Pass hurts the release of games and the press it receives, or of a game and the press it receives? Thinking of new or now older games like Battletoads they released that didn't get their fair shake. If something like that, if these games were physical, I think people would have grabbed it. The first part, I guess. Do you think it hurts the press it receives?
It's interesting. I think it puts a different label on it. I think out of the gate, it might actually get more press. I mean, just look at the games that we end up playing just because they're on Game Pass.
Right.
That I probably would have never found or never played. But in the long term, I think they're viewed as disposable and kind of like forgotten about. Just like Battletoads, like you said, like I played that game and, had played it for a couple weeks or whatever. And then it was off my Xbox and never thought about it again.
Yeah. And I think it's very dependent on the IP and the game for me with this question. I think there's a perception because Microsoft is good about day and date with a lot of stuff, especially their own titles. I do think there is a perception that a major landmark AAA release is somewhat devalued in the sense that it's immediately on Game Pass. It's a lesser of a game. I think there's kind of that perception, whether or not that's true. I don't know. I think it pushes it in front of more people though, within the Microsoft ecosystem. But then I think there's the other case too, where you get an indie game that might have gone out and it might have found an audience, or it might have been a slow burn and it took years to build into something. And this isn't a Game Pass game, but like, let's look at Rocket League. If Rocket League hadn't been immediately free on the day it launched on PlayStation Network, would we still be talking about Rocket League? And I think the answer to that is no, or at least not in the context that we are. So I think depending on the type of game you are and your business model, I think there's a lot for like, and I heard a statistic on like Tunic, right? Like Tunic, everybody knows about Tunic mostly because it hit Game Pass right away. And it, the games press, I think that's the other benefit is like, if it doesn't get a bunch of billing from Microsoft, the games press at least picks this up and everybody's talking about we do it too, the new things you're playing on Game Pass that week. So at least gets this huge word of mouth thing. And I read a statistic where like, I believe it was the Tunic people were saying like 70% of their player base was through Microsoft. Now, revenue wise, because of the deal they made with Game Pass, it was nowhere near that, right? Like their biggest revenue source was actually driving from the Switch, but think about how many eyes that is, and then what that allows you to do as far as like capitalizing through other sources of revenue. So I don't know. I think it's both. I think it can hurt, but I think it elevates certain games greatly.
Yeah, for sure. I think it hurts in the long term though too, because I just think that
there's no investment in it, right?
Yeah, it's just disposable at that point.
Yeah.
That's the same reason why I wonder about Netflix movie. We hold on to these Jurassic Parks and all these monumental movies from our childhood and, watch them again and show our kids and all this stuff. And it's like Netflix movies. What do you like?
Right.
They're just disposable. You watch them and then everybody talks about them for a week. And then who was the last person talking about, we should watch Bird Box again.
No, you shouldn't.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like no, it's a good point. I mean, you're exactly right. Like, yeah, nobody's going back to that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it really depends on who you're up against too. We'll say right now, there's a lot of games on there as we speak that I would love to put more time into. And I just not finding the time for it.
Sure.
And the funny thing is it's taking away from the bigger games. Like, I'm not starting Deathloop. I'm not playing Danganronpa 3. I'm not, doing these big, long, epic, big budget games. But at the same time, you download Spider Hack and they're like, this is really cool. And you just don't end up doing too much more with it. Right. Even though it's an awesome idea, it's just what's going on in, all these other ones. It could be I wonder what the strategy is there. Like, if there's some internal thing where indies be like, hey, we'll sign up for it, but we want to be, know what we're up against. And
right.
Maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe they just get paid whatever out of the gate. Doesn't matter.
I'm sure it's tougher for these indie studios to get the fair shake, right? Like, they're not getting the bucks that, and that was one of the other topics I was going to talk about was like Ark, for example. It was recently just released that PlayStation Network to have it as the free game for 5 weeks, paid $3.5 million to the developers of Ark. That's a lot of money, and not a lot of games are drawing. These little games are not drawing that. So I'm sure it's tough for these smaller studios to get a quote unquote, because they get a fair deal, because they're getting a lump sum, right? Like, that's the gamble, is you don't know. You're getting a lump sum based on what you're hoping to get, which is probably like, they probably calculate a percentage of like, well, this is where we think we'd be, but this is the exposure we'll get. But there's a chance it goes nuts, right? There's a chance, like Tunic's a great example. There's a chance it becomes huge. But I don't know. How do you quantify that? Because how many people would have played it had they had to pay for it? And I think what's tough is like, here's an example here of Battletoads. Would that have gotten a fair shake? Would it have done better if there was physical? That's the impossible type of game to predict, right? Like, one, there's nostalgia for it in a certain subset of collectors, right? Two, the remake, I'm sorry, wasn't that good. It was entertaining. It was
okay.
It was entertaining enough, right? But then there's the wild card in that scenario where people who are nostalgic for Battletoads are nostalgic for it on Nintendo platforms, right? So had that released on Switch physically, I guarantee you it would have done gangbusters, right?
Yeah.
Where it probably just kind of fell to the side in the Xbox marketplace. So yeah, I think there could have been some benefit to that particular game. I think it's a weird case though. I don't think a lot of games hit the nostalgia, the tie back to a certain company, and the sort of retro collector market, right? Because it's kind of where that would have fallen.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
The one thing that is nice for developers getting on Game Pass is they can completely avoid the topic of, is this worth my $1?
Yeah.
And I think that's something like Battletoads. Like, what would you price that at physically to get to cast a wide net of people for that game? Because I mean, you could have charged $50.
You could,
and you get the people that buy it, and half of those people probably don't even open it. They're just like, oh, here's my Battletoads sealed copy, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and then it would have had the Nintendo tax, so it probably would have been over 30, which I feel like that game, if you're paying over 30 for that, something's wrong. Physically.
Yeah. But
that's just me. I'm
$20.
I'm jaded, yeah.
If it was $20 in the value bin, right out the gate on physical, yeah, I could see it having longer legs, pun intended.
But then, that's it. But then, okay, so that's a weird example. Let's talk about another game like that you just mentioned, a new one that just came out, newer in indie space, Spider Hack. Like, that's a perfect example of a game that I think 100% benefits from being on Game Pass. I would have never heard about it otherwise. It's a very fun pick up and play game. But realistically, I don't think most people would have ever touched this thing unless it had gotten to the point where it was on a Steam sale and somebody's like, here's the 10 games you should buy for under like $1.50. You know what I mean? It would have just died. It would have been in obscurity.
That game, you need one person to have it and say, let's play this game. and then the tree branches out from there.
Yes.
You know, because that's the Rocket League, that's the Fall Guys stuff where you get hooked on that type of multiplayer stuff. And that game is a lot of fun. My kids are having a pretty good time with it too. But
and I think there is the argument to be made, and I think it's in a certain type of crowd, because I think depending on what age you are and like how you look at physical versus digital, I think there is a certain group of people who will use Game Pass, just like even like a Netflix, to find games that they absolutely fall in love with. And then as a result of that, seek them out physically. It doesn't matter that they've got the digital, they want the tangible thing, and like they want to support the developer, and they just don't want to lose that game. So I think it's a very small percentage of what happens in reality, but I think there's something to be said for there's a certain demographic of people who are going to go and buy the physical game anyway, even though it's on Game Pass, and they might have never discovered it otherwise. So
yeah, I will say something like Spider Hack really sucks if it leaves Game Pass, because that is the type of game where I have people over and let's play Nidhogg, let's play Towerfall, let's play.
It is very Nidhogg-ish.
iDarb. Yes. It's all those type of games, that you just want to be like, okay.
Yeah.
And I'd rather have those digital too, because you can just quickly get them up and going quick.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that would really suck if be like, okay, let's play Spider Hack, and then one day it's gone.
Yeah. Well, and it's so great too with a game that's got like an online component like that too, because now that little indie game isn't fighting for like trying to carve out a niche audience of like the 10 people who are going to play it all day. Like, you're pretty much guaranteed that there's gonna be a couple hundred people online in that thing, even if it's the bottom of like everyone's list on Game Pass. So yeah, well, it's an interesting topic, Chris. Hopefully we answered it somewhat intelligently and didn't ramble too much, but it's a tough question. It's a tough thing to quantify. I think it's very game and situation dependent, but it is going to forever. I will say, I do think it's going to forever change how games are purchased physically. I think it's already skewing. I can tell you as a collector that I will not, and have no intention, and have not bought an Xbox Series game and physical game, and I don't plan to.
Yeah,
I own one, and it was gifted to me. So
yeah, I don't know what you would at this point. What you would buy? Maybe some of the third party stuff that you want to play right away. But
yeah, if I want it physically, I usually gravitate towards Switch. Like, that's where I buy things physically now, and that's even now. I don't do too much, at least new games, right?
Yep. That said, hey, more options better,
Yeah, for sure.
Like, someday it'll suck that Battletoads is just gone.
Yeah. I mean we're collectors. We do it as much out of preservation as we do out of like love for the games, right? Like, you should always be able to get at a game. They shouldn't disappear to time. They shouldn't be wiped away because Google closes Stadia. They shouldn't, you know what I mean? Actually, this is great transition and interesting topic. So I read this. This is mind blowing, given kind of like how we're talking about Game Pass and updates and beta builds. I found out, there was an interview. I was reading an article that Microsoft was so focused on backwards compatibility in gaming with Windows 95 coming off of like 3 whatever, that they discovered that there was an open glitch left in SimCity that pointed to an open memory loop that didn't matter on previous versions of DOS, but would crash it on 95. So I shit you not, Microsoft baked into the OS the solution to correct a game bug because it was that important to them. So the OS is actually baked in, patched just to run SimCity, because back then it was ridiculous to think that a developer would go back in and modify a released product to run on a different platform.
Right.
Like, think about that.
Wow.
That's nuts.
That's yeah, on the server, wow, on the OS level to do something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's the complete opposite way of how the business works these days.
Yeah.
Like they just knew that they couldn't deal with the outrage of people not being able to play this massively popular game. So they just took it upon themselves to just put it right in there. So Windows 95 looks for SimCity. If it looks for SimCity, it corrects how it does the logic so that it doesn't crash your game.
I want to see the comment in the code there. That's like SimCity right here.
Dude, it's such an awesome story. Like so crazy. So crazy.
I wonder.
Especially because we live in a world now where like people just sometimes choose not to patch a game at all. Like, yeah, we acknowledge it. It's like, look at that Fez asshole. Like he never fixed the game breaking glitch because he's like, no, they want too much money. And then he gets mad at the fans. Like, you don't fucking deserve it. And but they did.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Wow.
Yeah, that guy fell hard.
Yeah. They can't be charging that much for patches at this point, right? Like,
I don't know. Well, he was always saying like PlayStation would be like $10,000 for a patch or so. I can't imagine, right? Like that.
Like, don't you want your customers to have a better experience for all of your stuff? Yeah.
Right. And every game ship's broken. So every developer's inevitably doing a day one patch. I can't imagine they're charging as much as you would, or they may be used to, but yeah. Interesting fun fact. I thought it was kind of mind blowing how the state of the industry has gone from the early 90s to now.
Huh. Yeah. So you heard about this, I don't remember where I heard it. They were talking about how new graphics cards can use this new software to go into old DirectX games and like use AI to up-res the entire thing.
Really?
And like you can change the material of what the 3D stuff is. And
is this where that guy was posting like the Virtua Fighter like up-res and like you look like an actual woman on the cover?
Maybe. Who knows? Yeah, it could be. But it's wild that this is all open stuff that if with enough work that you could go in and just like remake these games. Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah.
If you can find the tech and get your hands on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Still supplies constraints, I suppose. Dude, that's nuts. Be cool to see what some people could come up with. I'm sure lots of cease and desist letters will follow.
How good can we make Skyrim again?
Don't just let Skyrim die.
Skyrim ray traced it.
Speaking of like game art, did you see that somebody discovered like an early advertising? Like I assume it was for stores, mock-up of black box games, and there was actually original black box art for Legend of Zelda and Punch-Out, which the Punch-Out one looked weird, but the Legend of Zelda one looked very fitting, but also, holy shit, can you imagine rewriting our childhoods and not having that iconic gold box with the hole in it so you could see you were getting the gold cartridge? Like, would you have cared looking at that like weird zoomed out dungeon and Link? I don't know. Didn't look good.
What do you think the first, I mean, I'm sure you could research this and find out, but what was the first non-black box?
Oh, this is a great question.
Nintendo game? Like Zelda's got to be pretty close, I would imagine.
Yeah. Awkward silence.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder what that would, I don't know.
I'm not going to find it right now, but that would be, so you're saying first party, which one was the first one to get the treatment?
Yeah.
Yeah, it had to be close. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out or that, right? Mike Tyson's Punch-Out came out in 86? right? Maybe. I'm going to be talking. People are going to be getting mad at us just talking about our butts. Now they're going to be mad that I'm Googling stuff while I'm supposed to be talking.
Yeah, I don't know. That Punch-Out one is messed up.
So 87, it says. Yeah, I didn't like that. Well, it didn't even fit with the black box motif, right? It was just like this weird screenshot. So, yeah, I bet you're right. Zelda's got to be close. Metroid didn't have it. Zelda would have released before Mike Tyson, right? I bet, yeah. Somebody let us know. Somebody Google it and email us and tell us how stupid we are.
Why didn't they all become gold cards after that?
I know.
Just make them all gold.
Why not other colors? Why stop just at gold?
Well, they did that in the 64 era.
Wow, okay, that's fair.
Did you see that image going around from like that the early 2000s were wild? It was like George Foreman grills that all had like different colored see-through tops.
Well, come on, let's be real. Like, that was all Apple's fault, right? Like, Apple kicked that whole thing off, and Nintendo just followed suit. Mostly because they couldn't sell those terrible consoles. I saw some jackass on Twitter today was like screenshotted a 64 and a Dreamcast. He's like, everyone talks about the rivalry or blah, 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 but the last real rivalry was between the Dreamcast and the 64. Like, no.
What?
They didn't go head to head, you dickhead. Like, there was a Sega Saturn. I was like, also, everyone knows that, like, the Dreamcast was, like, up against the PlayStation 2.
Yeah,
the PlayStation 2 was the over looming cloud in the sky that just crushed any chance that console had. Because, I mean, the Dreamcast was huge.
It was the Dreamcast versus the console that didn't even exist yet.
Yeah, the Dreamcast had the largest video game opening day sales. I think it was like 200,000 units almost. Historical, monumental event. And then all of us, myself included, went like, yeah, but the PlayStation 2 is going to be better. And we just waited 6 months.
Yep.
And it sucked because the Dreamcast was great. But yeah, let's not pretend that it was going up against the 64. The 64 was still around, but I think it was dead.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I remember like Conker's Bad Fur Day or something like that.
Yeah.
In the same time Dreamcast. But that was just kind of at the end of it.
For sure. Plus, I mean, we don't want to give the 64 any credit going up against anybody. That dog lost every race it was in. So,
well, except the Saturn, I guess.
Hey, that thing was huge in Japan. Saturn had a long life in Japan. Did gangbusters.
Yeah. So it's like it's one of those
so I guess if we're
90s metal bands.
Yeah, if we're going by that rating system, I guess the Sega Master System is the true champion because that's still being bought and sold in Brazil somewhere.
Yep. Again, where metal is really popular.
Oh, man. Well, what do you get? Any other? What's this Hard Space Shipbreaker?
Oh yeah, that was another Game Pass game where you are you work for a salvage company.
Okay.
Salvaging spaceships, like derelict spaceships.
The shipbreaker, I guess.
Yeah. So you go out there and use a plasma cutter, cut it apart, and throw different pieces in the places that they're supposed to go to.
So is this this is not like super realistic, like a power wash sim? You're not like slowly, painfully.
It's kind of like
that. Why more of those?
It's I would say it's in the same vein that you're just kind of relaxing and just doing this monotonous thing.
Okay.
However, this is way more the controls are way harder to get used to because obviously you're floating around in space, and it kind of stays true to that. So you're trying to operate, all these different tools to rip ships apart and throw pieces of metal around in space while maneuvering. It gets a little disorienting, and I don't know. I would say it probably works better on a PC. I haven't tried it on there, but
mouse controls, I suppose. Yeah. Interesting. I might have to check that one out. One last nugget of, I'll just throw this out there because I forgot to bring it up, but like another Xbox nugget of strangeness is, did you see they're patching the Quest 2 or the Meta 2 or Meta Quest 2 is going to get a xCloud app, and then you can pair your 360 or your Xbox controllers to your Quest and play Xbox games.
Oh, okay.
In a headset.
I don't know why. But.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, who's this for? Like, I love playing Xbox games only for an hour at a time, and I like looking like a raccoon for 20 minutes after I'm done. Like, convenient. I don't know. Someone will use it, I guess.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah. Sadly.
His new avatar just dropped tonight.
Oh, he doesn't look like a weird like Disney character anymore.
No, he looks more like a me. Probably more like
that's not a step in the right direction.
Not even like a me, like not even Nintendo made one. It's like a I don't know, a Carnival Games looking guy.
That's not the future. Nobody wants that. Oh boy. The metaverse is not going to be a fun place, is it?
No.
Time for staff picks?
I think so.
How we need to come up with like a catchy way to introduce this, like a jingle. Like,
time for the video rental staff picks.
Yeah, it's what we do when we're not playing with our dicks, but in jingle form. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Okay. That was just a beta version. If somebody's got some actual suggestions,
workshop it. Yeah. So I think you should go first on this one because I'm really curious on yours here.
Okay, well, staff picks. Obviously, we're making a play back to the rental stores, right? So everyone has their staff picks. Mine's going to be my pick for this episode. I don't even know if this is an endorsement sort of pick or just like I want to subject people to my torture. I watched The Monsters.
Okay, boomer.
Yeah. Yeah. The Rob Zombie directed straight to Netflix because there's no DVDs anymore. Reimagining of a classic black and white and into the color era television sitcom about family of monsters. This is sort of an origin story take. I think everyone saw the trailer a while back and was like, boy, that looks not great. And I was one of those people and I was like, well, how bad could it be? And it's worse than you thought. Allegedly, the studio would not let him shoot it in black and white. I think that would have actually added quite a bit to this movie.
So he's like, I'm going to use every color.
Yeah. So what he did was like, I'll do the opposite of that. And you just like hyper colorized everything. Right. So it's like a weird take on like Technicolor where it's like colors that shouldn't exist. And they pop and like every room is green lit or blue lit or purple lit. And the real problem here is probably the budget. And I'm not trying to be mean, but a little bit like incompetence as far as like directing goes. Like I would argue that nothing Rob Zombie has made is great. Maybe like,
but they had budgets,
right? But Devil's Rejects was pretty good. I still think his Halloween movies are some of the worst of all the Halloween movies, but they were okay, I guess. But where it falls apart, and it tends to always fall apart, is his insistence on using Sherry Moon Zombie, his wife, in everything because she's not an actress, even though he's tried to make her one.
It worked for Resident Evil.
Yeah. So well. Yeah. That was yes. So I would argue that it's Lily Monster. She's even passable, right? She's passable in this role. Where they screwed the pooch was their casting for what's the main guy? I can't even remember. The main
Herman?
Herman, yes, Herman. The guy they cast for Herman, like I don't know if he just has never seen the monsters or if it's just bad writing. I can't imagine the writing's that bad, but he just plays like this weird, like egotistical, kind of dickish character who isn't. It's so far removed from what that role is in the series that it just kind of, it really takes the whole movie down.
So does he even have the laugh?
He tries to do it, but it's always horribly inappropriately timed. Like he gets brought to life and then he does he's supposed to perform like hat tricks or like, magic. They get him on a TV show, like once his character is introduced, then he just goes into like telling bad dad jokes. And then somehow he becomes a rock star. And then I don't know. And then somehow Lily's looking for someone to marry. And then like, he's a big celebrity and he's kind of a douchebag and a tool. I don't know. It just doesn't work. Her dad, like what do they even call him? Like Papa, the Count,
Grandpa?
Yeah. Grandpa. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. But that actor's very good and fits in with the dynamic. And clearly like I remember that show from being a kid and enjoying it. But given, as you can tell, my ability to like not remember characters' names, it wasn't like a huge impact on my life, but yeah, it's such a departure. And then the fact that they're just trying to use it as like an origin story and it's this bad sort of love story where they really don't have any chemistry, mostly again, because the guy who plays Herman just sucks. And it's not outright laugh out loud funny. They don't even get to the point where they introduce them having kids. The movie literally just ends with, because Herman's, I'm going to spoiler alert.
Wait, the werewolf kid isn't in it?
No, they don't have kids. They don't have the niece, nobody. So the movie ends basically in the last 15 minutes of the episode. You get to the iconic house. And that's about where the movie ends. So this winding plot of them falling in love, moving to America because Herman's an egotistical prick and he thinks he's going to be a big Hollywood big shot. That's why they move cross country. Anyway, spoiler alert for anyone who wants to suffer through this, and I recommend you do. Do you mind if I spoil it?
No,
okay.
Go ahead.
So Herman's brother-in-law gets him to sign away the rights to his father-in-law's house, which Herman does, screws over the entire family. And then the brother-in-law gets paid like a couple $1,000, right, from the whole deal. And so they're out on their ass. They're homeless. They need to find this new house. They somehow secure this house. And then at the very end of the movie, they all walk out from the iconic house. And the brother-in-law, who's basically just got a bit part, comes back with, "Hey, Herman, here's your share from the deal we talked about." Cause like, and why would he get the money? It wasn't his house. It was his father-in-law's. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so he's like, "I went to the casino first. Here's your share." And they don't show you what like the check says. He's like, "I'm filthy, stinking rich." And then like the brother-in-law starts throwing dollar bills in the air and then they're all dancing around the front lawn. And that's literally how the movie ends. Celebration out of like falling backwards into money from Herman screwing over his wife and father-in-law. That's the plot.
Wow.
Yep.
So just, besides all of the, low budget, looks like it's taped on a camcorder style. I mean, the color stuff, the extreme color, I think is kind of cool. I like that. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's not for everybody, obviously, but I kind of dig that part if you're going to do something weird.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think we're generously aware of the monsters. Like somebody even our age, I think we know more about the monsters than the average 35, 40-year-old people. So who the hell is this for? Because anybody over 60 is not going to watch this. So are you targeting somebody who's just like 50 and they watched it as a kid or something? I don't weird.
know. Well, it's so family friendly. Like it's the only PG Rob Zombie movie, I think. So like you can watch it with your kids, and I did. But yeah, I don't know that they watched it with me while playing their Switches and like looking up and down. And I don't think they were entertained either. So yeah, I don't know who that's for. Now, I don't doubt that this isn't going to be like some weird sick fantasy, kind of like Army of Darkness is with our generation, where like there's some 12-year-old who like saw this at a sleepover and they're like, oh, you see this weird movie? This is like the greatest movie ever. And there's going to be like special editions released for years to come. But I don't know. It's bad, man. It's bad acting with a terrible plot. And then, you know, what's funny is you kind of mentioned like you don't mind like the weird color and stuff. There are scenes where the budget is clearly so not there. Like when they go to Hollywood, that they get in a car and they're driving down and they literally cut to crudely drawn animation stills of like people, the downtown of LA. Like it jarringly cuts only in this scene to just animation with the characters driving over it. It's bad.
Really?
Yeah, it's awful.
Wow. Huh.
It's bad. So I recommend people watch it because it's just so, I don't know. You need to experience it for yourself. I can't say it's good. I didn't hate it. I just kind of don't know how we got here. and that's the impressiveness of it all. Is really in my recommendation there, in my pick. So how about you? I hope you have something better than I did.
I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to think of like some mainstay rock icon that could direct like a Leave It to Beaver reboot or something like that.
I'm sure Marilyn Manson's up for it once he avoids the jail sentence.
That would be, oof. That would be a rough movie.
He'd probably rename it to Nothing But Beaver.
So my pick, I guess, is what everybody else is talking about right now. It's the biggest show Netflix has ever done.
I mean, they've done a lot of shows.
They've done a lot of shows. This has broken all the records. It's the most watched thing, which is sad. I think it's incredibly sad that this is, again, just right back to the well of let's listen to the story of a serial killer. And yeah, this is the story of Jeffrey Dahmer. And I watched all of it because it's compelling.
I mean, is it supposed to follow like him becoming the monster he was? Like, how early does this start?
Yeah, it jumps all over the place. Okay. So the very first story is basically how he got caught and all of that. And then it just jumps around his whole life. And yeah, I don't know. It's well acted and the story's good and it's really compelling because that's what these are, you know. It's just whatever the human condition is to like be like, ooh, this is intriguing, whatever.
Is this guy gonna end up in like a Norman Bates situation where he can't shake this role down, this actor? Who's playing it? Like I haven't even seen.
It's the guy that played Quicksilver in the X-Men movies.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, it's that guy. He's playing the Jeffrey Dahmer, and I think he's going to be kind of locked into this, which kind of sucks for him, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. It's all right. There's some interesting things about it. It's just kind of grimy that like it is so popular, and it is just such a well-known trope of a thing. And the whole half of the like part of the movie or the part of the show is like talking about how you need to remember the victims and you can't, you know, they're avoiding like making him popular. And
yeah, while you're evangelizing
the
sicko.
Yeah. And half of it's like, oh, they were going to make a movie about him and all this stuff. And where was all the money for all this going and where it should go. And you should go to the victims and all this. And it's like, even the ending, they tried to like stick it to be like, yeah, remember, it's all about the victims and these are the people that were around him and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but you're Netflix, a huge corporation that made this thing to, obviously the draw to the show is about him.
Right.
You know?
The sick fascination with it, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Do you remember any of it? Like, I I don't.
I mean, I remember bits of it. Like I remember parts of the stories, like the one where he was like, I remember the one story that like is effed up where he was like experimenting on one of his victims with like the hole in the head and acid on the brain, and like the guy like got out the front door and he convinced like a passing by person that he was just like some mentally handicapped like person and he was a caretaker. Like I remember that kind of shit. But
yeah, that's a whole other part of the story where they're basically beating you over the head that like, yeah, cops are always fucked up. You know, the cop system is screwed up, you know?
Right.
Which was true for that, I guess, but I don't know. The part that really bugged me about it is, let's talk about, you were talking about how you can't do an Italian accent because it's offensive. This guy's got pretty Wisconsin accent.
Oh no, I hate that Midwest bullshit.
Yes.
As I oofed it earlier.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's very much over the top where like, oh, we don't sound like that. I mean, it's not as bad as like Fargo, the movie Fargo.
Well, yeah, where it's super exaggerated,
sure. Yeah. But you can definitely tell that it's like, oh, that's a little bit. However, he's got the same delivery and same tone as one of my favorite comedians, Joe Pera, who does Joe Pera Talks With You on Adult Swim. One of the greatest comedies ever made. Probably my favorite thing Adult Swim's ever done. And they just canceled it because they're morons. But that guy is, he plays a Midwestern U-Peer. And has the same delivery as this guy. I feel like this Dahmer guy just stole his whole act. And now he's getting popular. Well, the guy that had the original delivery
getting forgotten about.
Yep. He's getting canceled and forgotten about. And it just sucks because Joe Pera, which that's probably my recommendation. That's my pick for this episode is to watch Joe Pera Talks With You. I think it's on HBO. It is the most positive comedy you could possibly watch. It's like cheering for Dwight Schrute if he wasn't a dumbass and annoying.
I don't know that I want to cheer for Dwight Schrute.
No, so he's got like the weirdness of Dwight Schrute,
okay,
but he's got the positivity of it that you want to be the Jim and Pam. You want them to succeed and all that.
Gotcha.
And so mundane. It's kind of a little ASMR too, but it's not for everybody. But I would recommend it. That's my Joe Pera Talks With You.
Okay. Well, good, because I was going to skip your Dahmer one anyway, because I don't need any more depressing television in my life. My wife is still making me finish what's left of The Walking Dead, and that's about all I can take. So,
yeah. Well, at least that didn't happen. So
no, well, yet.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun. If you enjoy our content, head on over to Geekade, where you're going to find podcasts on video games, music, comics, movies, and so much more. And Patreon exclusives like early access to episodes, recording schedules, all available at geekade.com. What's your geek? Okay, so on to this episode's rental. We're going to talk about the one, the only Star Tropics on the good old Nintendo Entertainment System. Fun fact about this game, which plays into a lot of probably what we'll be talking about, is that this was a Nintendo-developed adventure game strictly for North American audiences, developed in Japan. Which was kind of an oddity back then. So they really tried to make it appeal to the boys and girls of of North America. There's baseball references.
Ooh,
every town every town ends in cola because us fat diabetic North American children love the cola. And basically you were an American boy named Mike, which I don't know why they let you name a character because your character's already named Mike, who is going to the tropical islands, hence the tropics, to try and find your uncle who I think you've never
Dr.
met.
Jones?
Yeah,
Dr. Jones?
Yeah, you've never.
Where's Dr. Jones?
It is true. I didn't even put that together. They really did lean into that. That's another nod. That's going to appeal to Americans. Indiana Jones reference. To find your estranged uncle, and then adventure ensues. I don't know what year this came out. 87? Something like that.
Yeah, it was a little bit later, right?
Yeah. It was.
I guess they made a sequel too, but
so
that was really
nostalgia wise, I think this is one that if you grew up with the Nintendo era, this game for whatever reason was burned into I think most of our minds, and favorably for some reason. Whether or not we beat it or not is another thing. But did you recall playing this as a kid?
Yeah, I think I rented it as a kid. I don't think I really got that far overall. I don't know if I really knew at that point the type of like exploring that this game requires, basically.
Yeah. Well, and yet it's linear as hell at the same time.
Right. I mean, but
the exploring comes with the bullshit, as we'll get into, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah, I would say it's exploring to find the only solution to things.
Or walking around until you've exhausted every other option is more of what I would say it goes for. So, yeah, I had fond memories of this game when I started collecting early on for the NES, way back in high school when I was starting to get back into it. This was one game that I gravitated towards, got early on. My cousins had it when I was a really little kid. So I remember playing, the opening few segments a few times. Also one of the earlier games to have, well, not earlier, but one of the few games to have battery backup. But I think the reason this game sticks in your mind is one, that cover art looks cool. Pretty unique.
Oh yeah.
Two, any game I feel like in that era, especially on the NES, that could do the giant exploration, like overworld, plus went into villages and then like dove into dungeons, but did it in a way that was more accessible, I would say, to most kids than Legend of Zelda 2.
Oh yeah.
And the dungeons looked a lot better. The sprites were very clear.
Very big sprite. Yeah.
And they really did, you could tell, try to keep the dungeon pieces feeling as much like the first top-down Legend of Zelda as they could, and kind of mashing up that overworld from 2. So like it was a game that stood out so much because of its execution and the way that you explored, and the diving in and out from the map and going into dungeons. Like that was pretty cool back then. Not a lot of games did it well.
And the island stuff, just going to different islands.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this game, you can tell, is very much catered to feel like an adventure. You're a kid going on a journey, and that's really where they put the emphasis, probably when they should have been putting it more so on making the deeper gameplay fun, because the exploration and the story in this game is great. Where it breaks down is really in the dungeons, because I would argue that while the gameplay is somewhat tight, it is not fun. I feel like the dungeons, like especially the further I got into the game, the more I just dreaded them, because they were the part that slowed me down from progressing. So it's a weird game because you get into like the top-down Zelda areas and you're armed with like a yo-yo, right? Or the star, as they call it, to find your uncle, but you can't jump onto blocks. So like you don't have like an actual jump button unless you're jumping over gaps or onto blocks. So every room just turns into this like either kill all the things or jump on all the boxes to find the way forward, which is slow and it's tedious and it's super repetitive. And then you get additional magic items that you have to use from the start menu. And then the game loves to rely on exploration through bullshit. And what do I mean by that? I mean old school bullshit where it's unmarked passages in walls. It's using random items that aren't, well, granted, I didn't have an instruction manual with me, but random items that aren't explained to you that need to be used in certain situations to unveil things that are not there to the naked eye to progress. And that was fairly common back in those days. So I can't be too upset about it. But these days, like, that stuff sucks.
Yeah. So while playing this, my thought was, do you think this was the number one moneymaker at the Nintendo hotline?
It had to be up there, right? How many kids called in for that code?
Oh,
it
yeah.
Had to be.
If the listeners aren't aware, there's a segment in the game where you have to put a number in your submarine to progress.
To find your uncle. Coordinates for your uncle.
It was a physical piece of paper that was in the game, it was separate from the manual.
Separate from the manual, yep.
That you had to drench in water
to reveal hidden ink to give you the code.
Get that number.
Yes. And we thought when we were kids that screenshot for Meryl on the back of Metal Gear Solid was bullshit. Like Star Tropics was like 3 more layers of shit on top of that.
Yeah. That had to be a rental thing, right? Where they were trying to.
Yeah, maybe that's a good point. Maybe that was it. They stonewalled it. So the kids would you, if you were that frustrated, go buy it so you could find out?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
kind of a bullshit
it's
thing.
It's the perfect like playground. Like, did you know that it's this thing? You know, like it's that kind of stuff that it'd be like playground chat. But yeah. So yeah, your progress at one point in this game is completely dependent on a physical letter that would have come with your original purchase as a kid, and you would have had to know through a in-game hint that you're supposed to dunk it in water. And plus, who would do that as a kid? Like, could you imagine like running over your game and throwing it in a bowl of water in front of your parents? They'd kill you. Yeah, it's real dumb.
Yep. And that's just the beginning. I mean, there's a lot of this game where, man, that ghost grave, there's a graveyard where you have to drain a swamp. And it is like it's like a Mario Ghost House, but way less fun.
Yep.
You got to, all the secret exits are just exits out and you have to restart it. And took me a long time to just see a little bit of kicked up dirt next to one of these slugs to be like, oh, there's a door over there.
Yeah.
And then it just turns into a whole other thing where you're like, I didn't know what's hitting me. I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, and then you find out that you need the magic wand to reveal that there's things that are hitting you that you can't see, and then and then you have to know that you can kill things outside of the plane of the game.
Yeah,
in the wall.
In the walls.
Like, it's so stupid. It breaks so many like logic things in your head. Yeah. And then I think what the frustrating part is from there is like that ghost thing is like the epitome of their puzzles and level design for probably 3/4 of the game.
Yeah.
And then they kind of start doing some fun variables way too late in the game, like a power up that will randomly let you jump twice as far, or the fucking awesome boots that let you like karate kill everything in like one hit, but it's only there once. So they start getting into these things where they could be layering it and making like really dynamic, interesting puzzles that don't have to rely on like dumb crap. But they don't, and they introduce it so late that they never capitalize on it.
Yep. They keep putting ghosts in, and then, I mean, the button thing never goes away. That's the core mechanic of this game.
Yes.
Is you jump on these boxes to reveal a button, and then you figure out a way to get to that button to open a door. That's basically what this game is.
And the lesson is never trust the button, because don't assume that the button you got that opens something is the way you actually need to go. Jump on everything else and then kill everything in the room until you're given like 4 options on how to proceed, and then hope to God it's the right one. And if you're playing on original hardware and you don't have rewind, that's going to suck.
Oh man. Yeah. I can't even imagine how long this game is without rewind, because there's a few rooms where you go in the room and it's just, oh, you're in water, you're dead.
Yeah.
You just
instant death room. That's right. Oh, I forgot about that. I was so mad about other things, but yeah, multiple times it leads you to imminent death. And then I love too. It's funny because they made this for North American audiences, and Nintendo of America and Nintendo at the time were so hell bent on censorship. Like Devil World couldn't come over to the U.S. because it had upside down crosses, like Christian what's the word? Iconography. Yep. There you go. Ryan's stupid. That's the lesson for today. But they couldn't bring that over. But this entire game, they constantly reference the Southern Cross. And then I don't know what that means, but I think it means the upside down cross symbol, because that's in every dungeon pretty much. And oftentimes a upside down or tilted cross leads you in the direction of a secret passage. So,
okay. So I never found the correlation between all those.
Yeah. And then there's the one dungeon where I sent you the screenshot, because that is somebody designed and drew a cock and balls, and that penis tip points you to an invisible tunnel. And you can say what you want. Maybe it was just weird coincidental design, but it's the only thing that looks like a dick in that entire game. And it happens to have a secret behind it. So I think somebody,
other than the bananas.
Yes, that's true. Somebody had a good laugh about that. It's just weird. Yep. I just like all the upside down crosses that had to have, there had to have been complaints, where parents are walking in like, why is there an upside down cross in my kid's game? Because it's in there all the time.
Yep.
It's weird.
Yeah. Every few screens seemed like it was there. Huh. Yeah.
But I mean, oh, go ahead.
The part that broke me, where I was almost done, was the whale. When you get in the whale, and there's a mechanic that you have a submarine in this whale. The must be a big fucking whale, but
huge.
You can take your submarine underwater at these specified points,
which are indicated by slightly different color water.
Yep, that transport you to a different place. So you've navigate this gigantic maze in this whale's stomach. Finally see where you need to go. You see there's a darker blue thing in that pool. So you're like, okay, there's got to be a way in there.
Yep, there is.
You try every single one. I tried every single order. I'm like, okay, there's something not right. And then did you try running into the random wall that you wouldn't have suspected that you can just drive through? Right. Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, once you get out of the submarine, you can see where some secret things are or something like that.
Yeah, it indicates it on the backside. Yep. I went through every portal in that. And finally, I was like, this game's so dumb. I'm like, this can't be it. And I just hit left. I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. All I had to do was run into the wall the whole time. So pissed. Yeah, I
spent about an hour in there trying to figure that out. That was
and that I distinctly remember being hung up on in other playthroughs. I don't know that I ever got past that, or if I did, maybe once, because I have vague memories. But yeah, that's some BS. But yeah, I mean, as far as the adventure goes, it's quite the story. You start off on the little island. Everyone's Aboriginal, which is weird in these tropical things, but they have like submarines and know how to well, maybe they don't all have submarines, but they know how to repair yours, which is weird. Yep. They don't have shirts, but they can fix a sub. So yeah, like you mentioned, you go inside a whale, you rescue a dolphin, you're sent
get a fortune teller's globe, you dress up as a lady.
Yes, you do. You're in drag before Link made it cool. You go into some underwater sequences through passages. You play a piano to make, which, by the way, I never figured out that hint or how to make that. I just lucked into it. Whatever. You do the whole like Goonies thing where you're just moving the old sunken ship. Which one came out
first?
Goonies had to, right?
Yeah.
So I think they leaned into that, like pirates and pirate ship. So you do the
Straight
whole
up from
Goonies
the- yeah.
scenario, which that's like one of the shortest chapters in the game. Like,
Yep.
you get a worm for a bird, which I'm pretty sure toucans don't like to eat worms, but maybe I'm wrong. And then from there, you just explore your way into an alien spaceship for some reason. You find
And then
your
the game
own-
gets hard as balls.
Yeah, well, the part I liked is where you finally find your long lost uncle. He thanks you, and he's too chicken shit to help you at all. So he allows like the 8-year-old boy to just continue fighting the.
Well, you
the
made it
alien.
this far.
Yeah, you're probably going to be fine, Mike. Yeah, and then the alien spaceship happens as the final chapter, and yeah, that for a game that cheap bullcrap aside is very manageable, I feel, in its difficulty. They really try to take the wind out of your sails in that one particular level, in that first level in the alien spaceship, and then after that, it kind of goes back to, I don't know, no, manageable, I guess. So it's weird.
Yeah. It kind of turns into a bullet hell a little bit. There's a lot more people throwing bullets around. At that point in the game, I was rewinding a lot just to keep my 11 hearts or whatever for the yo-yo
star
that shoots.
Yeah.
The star that shoots all the way across the screen, which makes this game way more manageable. Maybe kind of broken, but that's another thing that they brought over from Zelda.
Yeah,
which is kind of.
That's true. As long as your health is high enough, your normal melee projectile or becomes a projectile and shoots across the screen. So yeah, totally aped it.
And then you fight a xenomorph at the end.
Yeah. After he transforms from giant floating hands and a head.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I think that boss fight is maybe the hardest one because everything kind of has a pattern except that one. He just randomly hops around. The play area is like 3 screens. So he's constantly bopping in and out of screens. It was nice that they did like the generous lead up to the final boss though, where you can sit there and farm those enemies over and over again to get all your lives back or your hearts back.
Yep.
But yeah. And then, after you take out the alien Zoda, you crash back to Earth and everything is good.
Get some beautiful credits. I thought that was amazing. Like all the sprite, the pixel artwork of kind of your whole journey.
Yeah. Well, and let's not forget that you collected 3 cubes and you unleashed the last remaining vampiric children from a forgotten planet on the other side of the galaxy. So you've just doomed Earth, but good job, Mike. They all look normal. Like they all look like kind of happy elves. And then you're like, oh shit.
Little elves, yeah.
That one to the right is definitely a deranged vampire. Like look at him.
One of them is good. Why were you guys in this cube?
How come you're only outside when the sun's under a cloud cover? Is this Twilight? Yeah. But yeah, I would agree that ending sequence, is like a whole like almost storybook recap of your whole adventure, which as we see on your screen right here, you've got Mike with the bananas in his ears, or you with your bananas in your ears.
Yep. Yeah. So my biggest complaint, I think, that would make this game so much better would be the control of Mike in the dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you change directions, it seems like that's an input of a frame. And if they would just skip that part, if I'm going left and I press up, I want to be going up immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And there's too much lag in between that. And that, oh man, that was constantly getting hit because you're not anticipating that slow of movement.
Yeah, it's one of those games when you've played a lot of other like snappy NES games like a Mario, you do feel like you're getting like random hits that you feel like you should have been able to avoid, but it's that whole thing. Yeah, I would say that. I would say the like level design, like the puzzle elements just needed a little bit more thoughtfulness and less of the mystery bullcrap, which I suppose they probably did in part to like, well, boost difficulty, but also because like maybe that's what they were going for in their head, right? Like this is Indiana Jones or the Goonies. This is things that are not there. You're not supposed to see them, right? It's supposed to be the discovery, but all it really does is kind of take away from and slow down what overall is a pretty cool concept for a game, and just makes you really frustrated at times.
Yeah. I Nintendo Power would have been really good for this game.
Yeah. Do you suppose they did a walkthrough at some point? They would have had to, you'd think,
they probably
right?
did a player's guide for this, right? Yeah.
I would hope so.
Oh. They should make another one of these. Like, they should. It's got such a good vibe. I know it's like American only, so Japan doesn't care about it, but it'd be cool.
It would be really cool. Well, there is the sequel. Maybe we'll have to tackle that in a future rental.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to install that on something with a rewind feature, I have a feeling.
What if Wind Waker was a Star Tropics game?
I could see it.
That could have. I think
maybe you're right. Yeah, what if he wakes up at the end and he's got brown hair and everybody calls him Mike?
Yeah.
He's got a yo-yo.
Actually, Tingle. He's like...
Yeah, and instead of a talking ship, it's just like there's a Rob the Robot on your ship that was talking to you the whole time.
He's got red hair. He's the king of red lines.
So, having gone through the whole thing, what would you give this thing on the Byron Burn scale?
I would buy this game. I do enjoy the base gameplay of finding the button. It was something different than just a straight up action game.
Sure.
It's like, okay, I'm doing the Zelda dungeon thing, but I also have to do something at the same time, which kind of made it really intriguing. There's a lot of bullshit in that game that I don't know why they did it that way. For me, I just feel like they call the hotline if you need help. But overall, I would say I had a lot of fun with this game. I love its vibe. And hey, they did it. Japan made a basic like, oh, these Americans are gonna love this.
They know
garbage.
what America wants.
Yep, they knew it. I'm just call me Mr. Mike Jones.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. Nostalgia played heavily into me early on with this game, but it's really the story that kind of kept me going. I would definitely buy this one because I did like the adventure. Like I said, you get frustrated, but there wasn't a time when I put this game down and didn't want to pick it back up the next day. I think I played it over like 3 sessions. And you get there and you get frustrated and you put it down and you walk away because they're just dumb crap. But so did virtually every game on the Nintendo.
Yeah.
So the fact that like I just want to see what was going to happen next in this story, just kind of the way that it all unfolds. And I love how literal, like on the head they go with the title too. Like you go to the stars and fight aliens and you're in the tropics.
The tropics.
Like, well, you guys really tried in this one. It's great. Yeah, I love it. I'd give it a buy. It's a good game. It's a good, well thought out adventure. It has problems, but it's hard not to like it.
Yep. Agreed.
Hopefully we explained it and did it some justice. And hopefully you listeners out there have some opinions. Let us know what you think about this game. And what you would give it. And play it if you haven't. Give it a fair shake. It's on the Nintendo Online. If you got that, it's on the NES Classic.
Don't be ashamed to use Rewind because we did.
Yeah, definitely do it. And you can emulate this thing anywhere. So no excuse not to try it. I think that might be an episode. What do you think?
Yeah. So, like Ryan said, you got some opinions on Star Tropics, We love to hear them. You can email us at weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com. We are on Twitter. You can find us there. Definitely send us a question, just like we got one in this episode. Shout out to the R3 podcast for sending that over. And that's going to do it. So be kind, rewind.
Iconography. I can say it.
Bananas in your ears.
Oh man, that was a perfect bananas episode. I blew it.